Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our noonday broadcast. Here we delve into transformative dialogues about social justice and the voices leading our charge for social reforms. At a noonday, we explore the intersection of politics, culture, and tradition with the leaders reshaping our world for the better. Our noonday focuses on critical dialogues around social justice with emphasis on gender justice to influence policies and contribute to societal shifts. My name is Priscilla Mah-Belloh. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Today, we have two veteran journalists that will be discussing their journey and contributions to the Liberian media landscape. The first person is a career journalist and renowned author. He served as the Deputy Minister of Information and diplomat to the United States. This guest was a spokesperson for the continent of Africa's first democratically elected female president and Nobel laureate, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. He is Mr. Gabriel Williams. Welcome, Mr. Williams, on a new day, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me on this morning from my end, and I know in the afternoon and in the evening, wherever your listeners are or your viewers are. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, sir. We will have another guest joining us, so when she comes on, then we will announce her. But yeah, so today we're going to be talking on this episode. We're going to be exploring and discussing Liberian media's evolution, current state. So the conversation will highlight the historical context, significant challenges, and transformative moments in Liberian journalism. We will mainly focus on the roles and contributions on our guests in shaping media practices and advocating for press freedom in Liberia and the Americas. The discussion will provide insights into how past experiences and present realities can inform future initiatives to enhance media integrity and independence, fostering a more informed and engaged public. In the words of another Liberian veteran journalist, Dr. Alexander Reid, is in quotation, it's going to be an enlightening podcast. Unquote. So stay tuned with us. Stay tuned, people. Yeah, welcome to a new day, everyone. Mr. Williams, let's begin with you. Please tell us briefly, how did you start journalism? No, no, no. First of all, let's chit chat. I'm trying to now get used to incorporating a little chit chat before we jump into business. Tell us, if you don't mind, where you are, how's the weather like, and yeah, what's going on with you?
To God be the glory. It's just a beautiful day out here in Sacramento, California.
Okay.
California is world class place, very beautiful in terms of just natural landscape. 2 hours from here, from where I'm at in Sacramento, is San Francisco, the San Francisco Bay, which looks pretty much like my home area in Riverside. And I've written, extensively about this. Riverside is such a beautiful place, especially Cestos. That's my home, and so this is home away from home. So the weather is beautiful. I'm actually in my backyard, and before we came on, you saw one of my cats, trying to interrupt me, but he's resting. His name is Royce, and so everything is well. We bless the Lord.
Okay. So you say you are there with Royce and who again? Beth?
Royce and the other cat is Bets. My wife is getting ready to go to church. And other family members, they are going to church. But I'm home, because of this podcast. And then, I take care of my gardens over the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a, avid gardener. Even in Liberia, when I'm home, away from all the basic, activities, I do gardening. It's just, it deals with a lot of emotional situation for me. It's refreshing. Gardening, swimming. I swim a lot as well.
Oh, okay. That's interesting to know about you. Thank you for sharing that side about yourself. I think we have our next guest. Oh my God. We are African goddess. So if you've been following on Noonday, and then you are, you know, a frequent viewer of or follower of this platform focus on Liberia, our next guest needs no further introduction. She is the former Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner, Madam Massa Washington. Thank you for coming on, Massa. I love your hair.
Thank you, Priscilla. Hi, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Gabe,
Oh, hi.
how are
I
you?
just I couldn't hold my breath to say hi to Maza. When she came on stage, I couldn't believe it. I almost got knocked off my seat.
Look at
You
you.
looking absolutely beautiful,
Priscilla,
girl.
Priscilla,
The
you know
last
that
time
my
I
boss,
saw you,
that my boss right here, oh. That my boss. Oh.
the last time we met was at our late friend and brother Patrick Manjo's funeral. Was that last
Yes,
year in Texas? And many
yes,
of
it
us
was last
gathered.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
last
good
February,
to
I
see
think.
you again. Yeah, Master. Good to see you.
Good to
And
see
you
you.
looking
Good to
good.
see
We
you,
bless
Gabe.
the Lord.
I
Yeah.
know.
Thank you. Thank you.
She
You too. Good
looks,
to see you. You look great.
she looks so
Thank
amazing.
you.
Priscilla, you know I always love your natural hair. So you
Yeah.
always.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, today I decided mainly to do it out of defiance. I know I do that most times, but today is that. But you always wear your natural. But yeah, today I decided to do that because last week we're talking about something as important as the oration, and there were one or two people concerned about how people hair look. And so if you want to comment more about that, that just tells us your level of intelligence. So go ahead and be paying attention to the superficial instead of what we going to be the substance of what we're going to be discussing. But anyway, um yeah, thank you, and thanks sis myself for your compliment about my hair. Unless his master is allowed to do that. Um, but yeah, before you came on, I was asking Mr. Willen to just tell us how he started. So he started journalism just briefly, and then especially what was your first role and where which agency or newspaper or radio station? So how did you start? What's your first role? Where and when? So yeah, basically how you started to up to when you became Secretary General of the Press Union of Liberia.
Yeah, all started from high school. My high school days, at Detour High School in Newtown. The MCSS schools those days, school at Detour, which was once William R. Talbot High School when the coup took place, and then the military, leaders changed it, the PRC changed the name to Detour. They are one of the best English departments there. And, there was a press club called, first the Talbot High News Agency, Tona, and then, we changed it to the Detroit High School Press Club. That press club produced people like Philip Weiser, and many, many other journalists out there. Philip Weiser, in fact, when I went to Detroit, in my 10th grade, Philip was in the 11th grade. He was a news editor. I was his assistant news editor. And I started reporting as a reporter of my class, the 10th grade class. We used to write the news and paste it on the bulletin board. You would write the news, take it to the vice principal's office. They will proofread it, edit it. You can rewrite it and put it on the bulletin. And that's how I started. And before you look, we started doing, on the microphone, doing auditorium, events in the auditorium, and then commentating games and those kinds of things. And then before I graduated from high school, thanks to Alhaji Kroma, a very innovative journalist those days, after the coup, who was a director general of LBS, he started this program called School Special. Councillor David Brown Lasana, she was one of the conductors. She actually one of the earliest conductors of the program. Laurice Reeves, Lady Laurice. Those were the people who started us off because they took the best, English students, some of the best from various schools, and we came and did weekly reporting, and you reported from your various school. And they call it School Special. That's how they recruited people like Patrick Manu. By the time he graduated, the guy was so good you couldn't stop him. He came to further program, VOA, and so and that time, when I was head of the press club, we invited Mr. Best. There were two major journalists we invited. The
Okay,
late
so Mr. Best, just
Kenneth
for
Y. Best.
yeah, for other audience that are
Oh
not
yes.
familiar with Liberia
Yes,
terrain.
we, during my tenure as editor in chief, after Philip Weiser left, we first invited Mr. Jonathan Rifle, a legend, broadcast legend, in not just in Liberia but in West Africa. He was well known. That man could pronounce every word you could sit and hear. And then we also invited Mr. Best. He came and spoke to us, our press club. That was how the connection was made. And by the time I graduated, I got a scholarship to go to Ghana to study at the Ghana Institute of Journalism. My high school vice principal, her name was Mrs. Rachel Cox George. She seemed such a studious student. And these these schools from people, we were from families of little means. So to go, to gain opportunities, you stay right there in Newtown. Of course, I lived in town and went to school in Newtown. So she wanted to give me an opportunity so that I would not get caught in the quicksand of poverty. And I give you an example. Philip Weiser graduated a year before me, right? And Philip did not have any, and he was the deuce of his class, the valedictorian. But Philip was stuck in Newtown, no opportunity. Until when I graduated, Mrs. Cox just sent me to Mr. Best because to go to Ghana Institute of Journalism, you must have some background, or at least training background with some established media outlets, the newspapers. That's how she sent me to Mr. Best. And of course, Mr. Best had been on our campus and spoken to our press club. So he took me on for 6 months. But those days, Ghana was in chaos. And I need to just explain this. I know I'm not talking too long, but it's important to set it up, Priscilla. Ghana was in chaos. People used to come to Liberia, and Massa here, who were all young people coming to those days, they used to come to Liberia to buy toothpaste, to buy toiletries. From the 1970s coming to the 1980s, yes, and basic necessities the people didn't have. Many of them came to Liberia, to teach. This is how you have a lot of Ghanaians in our school system. So For me to go to Ghana, there was chaos. They shut down the institute, they shut down many institute, the universities and stuff. I got stuck. But I had done so well as an intern that Mr. Best decided to keep me on. And he said, you kid, you are so good. But, can you find another person from your press club who is just as good as you are? I will keep you on as a reporter. And I went and looked for Philip Wieser. This is how Philip Wieser came on. And before you look, Philip Wieser became my boss at the Daily Zero because he worked so well. He came in, I was like the senior reporter. Before you look, Philip had outperformed everybody. And the management picked him as editor, news editor. And I reported to him, and so I was stopped there. So from there, we move on to the press union and other opportunities. So let me stop there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Yeah. Oh my God, that's interesting, the background you gave, especially the Ghana aspect.
Mhm.
That just feeds into what um our orator for this year. And then we have a sister here on the History Channel keep telling us about how great Liberia, our history is, how we were as a people on the continent, the kind of what we stood for, and how people flocked to us. But today, after the war, it's like we don't see past, like before the war, what we stood for. We kind of forgot, either out of trauma or whatever it is, but we tend to define ourselves based on from the war era and with some shame, some level of shame or something or stigma. So thank you for sharing that part about. I know it just briefly, but at least to give people an idea as to this is what Liberia meant before, certain period. So before we go to the press union aspect, let me check with Sis Massa so that she too, because I learned that the both of you work together. So how did your path cross? Sis Massa, tell us
Well,
briefly.
like Gabe said earlier, we were all young people trying to be journalists. So the first time I met Gabe, it was through the late Gabriel Kudekaju. And Gabriel Kudekaju and I, share a very special bond because we have a unique story. Um,
And who
I
was
live in the
Gabriel?
old Gabriel Kudekaju, the broadcast journalist, the guy with the golden voice.
Okay, so no,
He
I
worked.
just need you to say a
Oh,
little
okay, yeah,
bit
yeah,
for the
okay, yeah.
audience sake.
Gabriel Kudekaju was a news editor, one of the best broadcast journalists that Liberia has ever produced. And take
So,
it from me when I tell you that. Yeah. So how it happened with me is that I lived on the old road at the time at my father's house across from the American Cooperative School, ACS. And I had gone on the road to a Nigerian shop to buy soft drink for my stepmom, Coke. I will never forget. And as I was walking in the shop, I saw a lot of big names from LBS. It was Gaswa Yamento, Wilmot Stubberfield, and
and
there were three of
LPS
them.
is a
They had
Liberia Broadcasting.
yeah, Liberian Broadcasting System. And this was in 1981. I was still, in high school trying to finish. And so they were there. I knew them because I was interested from day one. I always wanted to be a journalist. When my father and other people asked me, "What do you want to be?" I said, "I want to be a journalist." And so as I walked into the shop, but the way they were sitting close to the entrance of the shop. So you either had to be very polite and tell them, "Good evening, gentlemen, please excuse me," or you just be rude and just brush past them and go. So when I got there, being a convent girl, I spoke to them. I said, "Good evening, everybody. Please, can I get by?" And they were really shocked. I would never forget was Gaspar Yamento. They didn't know me, of course, but I knew them because they were popular on the TV. So Gaspar Yamento turned around and said, "Wow." He said, "You're so intelligent." He said, "You speak so well. Who are you?" And I introduced myself. And then I will never forget the Nigerian guy who owned the shop name was Benny. And then Benny said, "That's Mr. Washington's daughter. That's she's very smart." And then that's why I meant to say, "What do you want to be when you finish high school?" And I said, "I want to be a journalist." He said, "Well," then he pointed to Wilma Stubberfield. He said, "You know this man?" And he pointed to another person who I can't really. He said, "You need to get to know this man. then you need to talk to them. And then start with you, then started joking. He said, but what's about you? You are a journalist, you need to. So, and then they introduced themselves to me. And then BBS is trying to organize a training program with VOA. They were looking for young journalists. And it was Wiade Koba. At the time, she was Wiade Koba. She's now Wiade Koba Bode. So it was Sis Wiade who was organized, who was the point person for that training. And so they had this Leon Sternberg. If you are small, you probably don't remember, but those of us who are a little bit older than you, Sternberg used to be one of the most prolific journalists on VOA. You would be laying down in Africa and then you hear, good morning, this is Leon Sternberg. So he was coming to Liberia to train journalists to fill several positions at LBS and then also Ministry of Information. They were looking to recruit young talent. And so it was Gaspar Yamento who said, come to LBS and get the information and keep checking. We are going to be training young people to be a journalist. You need to come. And that's how the story started. So I went to LBS the first time and met Gabriel Kwedekaju there. At that time, Gabriel Kwedekaju was working with the Liberian National Police media department. And he was very sharp. He used to read it was not like full news, but because most of the time they used to give basically it was like accident news, but he was reading it and he was writing it at the same time. He was just so multi-talented. So I met Gabriel at LBS when I went, because I told my father, I said, I met these people from LBS and they say they're going to be training, so I should go. So the next day, my father gave me money to take the bus to go to LBS. And when I went, I met a lot of young people. I met the late Louis Wiles. He ended up, was on the radio. I met Eddie Carter, Abraham Masale. I met Abraham Masale, who later on became president of the Press Union of Liberia. And I met Gabriel Kwedekaju. And for some reason or another, Gabriel and I just connected. And so that's, call a long story short, that's how it started with Gabriel Kwedekaju and I. But then there was a second Gabriel, it was two Gabriels. If you got to know Gabriel Kwedekaju, you have to get to meet Gabriel Williams. And so once I got to know Gabriel Kwedekaju, I think it was Gabriel Kwedekaju and I one day, when we came from, Gabe came to visit me, and then we went to Data Observer to speak to Gabriel Williams, because they were all young guys, very talented, and our friends. So, and then I met Gabe, and we became friends. Then I did the training and everything, and then they needed, I think, only 5 persons. I was the only female who completed the training, and then I was assigned at LBS. Ministry of Information, and I started working in a new Liberian newspaper with J.N. Elliott, Sam Johnson, Mark James. That was the team. And Gabriel Williams, at that time, the Ministry of Information was the hub, and it's like it was like you have JFK as a teaching hospital. The Ministry of Information was the place where journalists went to get trained. Okay. In the past, all the big time journalists, all of them were trained. Tom Camara, Kenneth Best, Wiade Koba, you name it. They were all trained at LBS. At Information Ministry. That's where they started from. So it was like a teaching, teaching place. And then Gabriel Williams used to come there. And Gabriel Kwedekaju, and I would form a team. It was me and the two Gabriels. Sometimes they would come to my house to visit me, and it was like really nice. We were just young professionals, trying to be journalists. It's very serious people. People used to say, why are people so serious like this? And my father used to and Gabe, my father was always accommodating when you came to the house, right? Remember?
Oh, absolutely.
So in Priscilla, that's how it started with the media, and we just took off from there. And then when they walk in, I was at the Ministry of Information working there, only female in the newsroom. Priscilla, I weighed 84 pounds. I was so thin, I weighed 84 pounds. I remember when Samuel Doe announced Emmanuel Bouya as the Minister of Information. Bouya was in America at the time when the coup happened. He was at the embassy as a Minister Counselor for Press and Public Affairs. So Doe named him Minister of Information. And so when Bouya came, one Sunday evening, because the papers used to come out every day. And you know how it is, Sunday you got to go to work. So we all in the newsroom, and I'm there. And I'm sitting. I used to like to act like one of the boys. So I'm sitting on the table, actually on the deck, because I had finished doing my story. I was reading it to take it to the editor, Mike James. And then the new minister walks in. This was like around seven something, in the evening, in the night, Sunday, and he walked in and he greeted everybody and he looked at me and he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "My name is Massa Washington." He said, "Oh, that you the one writing all the BB front page story?" He said, "I thought you were some big woman, Sonny." He said, "I thought you were some big woman." He asked me, "How old are you?" I was just like, what, 20? I think I was just 22 or something. And he said, "Wow." He said, "You know, you got talent." And then when he asked me, "Who your family?" And I called my father name, my mother name. He said, "I know your parents." He said, did you live on Capitol Hill?" My father used to live there. And when I was at the University of Liberia, I would come to the house to eat and stuff. He said, "I know your family very well." And he said, "Wow, I'm not surprised that you're here in the newsroom because your father is a very decent guy." And that's how it started. So when the war came and, everything, Shakla, it wasn't very fashionable anymore to work for government because, they were killing people who work for government. So Gabriel Williams, Philip Wissem, and the rest of them, they formed the Inquirer newspaper. And so I went to them and told them that I wanted to work for the Inquirer newspaper. Gabriel Williams told me, "Yeah, Mas, even though we know you're a journalist, you're our friend, but go and apply." He told me, he said, "Go apply officially." Gabriel Williams, he said, "Go apply, send your application in and bring it straight to me." So I sat down, did my application, put BB words, I want to come back in the media. So I took
So
it to
that's
them.
how you started working
That's
together.
how I started. And at that time, Gabriel was the managing editor. Philip Wissem was the news editor, and Sam Slevin was the senior reporter. And so I was sharing Sam Slevin's office with him. I went in as a cub reporter, and the rest is history.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So you really came a long way. And I like the way you have laid out. Sis Massa brought another angle where Mr. Willen didn't cover. It really gave me an insight, further insights to how things used to be before some of us came on the scene later. So, yeah, thank you for that information. For me, I don't know about other journalists. I'm sure there are others watching. They may not be journalists, but me, like journalists, I hope they will follow and they're watching. And I hope this is going to give them, a rich insight to some extent as to how things were, or if not rich, but a little more peek into things those days. So I want to I want to skip now and go straight to Mr. Willen tenure as a Secretary General. How did you end up at the press union? Um, and then you became a second, I mean, later, not how, but later you ended up at the press union, became Secretary General of the Press Union of Liberia. During your tenure, um, what significant challenges did you encounter regarding press freedom? Or were there even challenges when it comes to press freedom? In the first place, were there any challenges where press freedom threatened, or was it all smooth those days? And if there were challenges, what are they? Did
Yeah,
you
thank
want to
you.
answer my
Before
question?
we come to the challenges, let me just provide some background, with respect to how I got into the leadership of the press union. Uh, you know, uh, the press union after the 1980 coup, the press union became inactive completely. It became moribund. It was no longer existing,
Yes.
except for in the
So
after,
1980, the press
yeah.
union.
Yes, because the government, the PRC, they ban all organizations and all, civic, political
And
activities.
I got all that background. I just need you to go through it for the audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pardon?
So what year the press? I want you to start from that point. So
Yes, so, following the 1980 coup, about 1982, 83, thereabout, the journalists decided to come together to reactivate the press union. And the meeting at that time, I was, a reporter in training at the Daily Observer, and the meeting was held at the YMCA, which was on Broad Street, which was, the main meeting venue for the press union you had people like, Mr. Kenneth Best from The Observer, Mr. Rufus Dapple, peace be to his soul, who was, was editor-in-chief of The Observer, and then, the New Liberia, and then the Sun-Times newspaper. You had Councillor Mah-Belloh V. Sako Salif. You don't hear about him much these days. That man, Councillor Salif, was, the publisher of the Footprints Today newspaper. Massa, you remember Footprints?
Yeah, Mr.
Yes,
Salif, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, one of the leading publications. Many times they shut down his newspaper.
Sam Van Cassidy used to work there. Remember Sam Van
Yes.
Cassidy worked there?
Yes, I said Bantu worked at the Footprints. Dr. C. William Allen was the editor-in-chief. When Dr. Allen came from the States with his PhD, he was editor-in-chief of the Footprints. Clone Heenan, and those people were in jail back and forth.
Tom Nimblin, language law.
Yes, a lot of the guys, they were, at Footprints, and so you have all of these, media leaders, and I'm sure as I go along, some of the names will come along, so the real Lamini Warite, yes, how could I have forgotten Lamini Warite, one of the major players. Lamini, I see Massa smile because Lamini was editor-in-chief at the New Liberia, the government-owned New Liberia.
Yes, he was.
Tom Kamara, New Liberia, Rufus Dapple. So you see the balance in communication those days. It was not easy. There were times they would take them to jail. They would write one editorial, and they were, So that's how the press here was reorganized. And when it was reorganized, Mr. Best was the president and was elected president. Dr. C.
What year was this?
This was between 1982, 83, 84, there about, yeah. So Dr. Allen, vice president. After Mr. Best's tenure ended, then Dr. Allen was elected president, Lamini Warite, vice president. When Dr. Allen's tenure ended, Lamini Warite, president, Isaac Bantu, vice president. So you see how it went? And then during the Warite time, that's when I got elected Assistant Secretary General of the press. I had returned from the States from a fellowship at the United Nations headquarters in New York, where I served as a journalism scholar, which is one of the most prestigious awards in international journalism. I was the first Liberian. There are actually 2 Liberians that have ever benefited from that award. One, Weddy Williams, my namesake also. She, very brilliant young lady, she benefited from it later on. Yes, so that's how I became Assistant Secretary General. After Warite left, Bantu became president. I became Secretary General. Emmanuel Mah-Belloh became, vice president. And then the war broke. When the war started, because Bantu, they tried to kill that man so many times. And I'm telling you, for example, during remember in the wake of the 1985, Kuwangba invasion, the soldiers went to the fellow's house in the night. This man is in his room, in his pajamas. They raped him down to his brief. They took him out, and they burned the whole house down.
Oh my God.
They took him to jail. Just around the same time, they arrested Charles William. They took him to the mansion and butchered him to death.
Charles William and Kwame Clement.
Yeah, they arrested Kwame Clement the same way.
That time too, yeah.
And so Bantu's story, they were taking Bantu to the mansion. But they passed the soldiers that were taking him. They passed to the defense ministry, and they announced that they had got him, and they were taking him to the mansion to do him the way they did to Kwame Clement. It was the chief of staff then, Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What they did to Charles William, rather. I'm sorry.
Who was president of Liberia at this time?
It was head of Samuel Doe. It was Samuel Doe. When after Doe rigged the elections, General Kuwangba launched that that invasion to stop Doe from being inducted, and the whole thing failed. That led to a lot of killings. This is how these journalists who were doing their jobs got caught in the crossfire. So all of these things. So when the war started again, they went after Bantu. This is how Bantu fled. Mah-Belloh took over. So Mah-Belloh and I, we spearheaded that affairs. That time, the president took a decision that we would not recognize any government by force of arms. And so when Charles Taylor came over and seized the entire country except for Monrovia, they demanded recognition. We said, we're not going to recognize you. So we were also on his death list, but we were, eventually, Mah-Belloh I led a delegation to Banga to meet with Mr. Taylor and the breakaway group. We were there for a week to reconcile. It was through those initiatives that Mr. Taylor eventually allowed journalists to move, to go into, in and out of NPFL area to report, including international journalists. And, yours truly there, Miss Massa, I'm telling you, she dodged bullets up and down. She was one of the trailblazers that led the way going into Taylor area. Imagine on your way you could be ambushed. Imagine when there's fighting somewhere, all kinds of things. But I'm telling you, she was just unstoppable. And and we trusted one another.
Mm.
It was about a job. It was not about money. It was not about anything but being able to inform. It was primary. And I'm telling you, once we held together, we could understand one another, we worked together, the sky was the limit. We didn't allow people to come in and try to, talk stuff in your ear. There were a lot of things to influence us, but we were focused on one thing, and that was being journalists and nothing more. And that's how we got through. And there she is, you know. Yeah. So yeah, if let me just pause there, maybe so that it's not long windy.
No, it's not. It's just amazing. It really is to be able to have you still around telling us about things that and don't pass on by word of mouth, but they or maybe they are archived somewhere, they are written somewhere. I haven't come across them. Unlike when doing courses, uh yeah, in the US, you will have them quoting, talking about the veterans, uh, like how you are recounting these things. I have a quotation here when we come to the World Economic Crime Court about the media role, and I have that doing one of my courses on elections coverage, the Dean of Columbia Journalism School, Jelani Cobb, said, because these are the people we hear about, because these are the people some of us doing training, with to continue being relevant in the field, in the profession. Um, so some of us didn't have the privilege to learn at the University of Liberia mass communication, because I did something else. I studied something else at the University of Liberia. And since journalism can be an art as well, I practice it. But when it comes to sitting in classroom or doing courses, it was in this country. And when you hear about giants of press, you hear mainly about Westerners, you hear about American heroes in American press. We heard a lot about H. Hubert Humphrey, and that was named after the fellowship that I came for. So, as the dean of Columbia University and Journalism School, he says the only profession mandated by the Constitution to ensure the proper functioning of democracy. Let me quote his exact words. In quote, he said, "There is one profession that is specifically mandated by the Constitution, and that's us, because there's the recognition that we serve a vital function in making all of the other parts of democracy as prescribed by that document actually function. And when we move too far away from taking the charge seriously, circumstances and events have a way of reminding us to bring us back to that understanding. We are in a reminder. The moment we are in is where the future generations of journalists will operate on the ethics that we have developed in response to this moment that we are in. What is the movement? The Watergate, the McCarthy, the Pentagon Papers era of our time again. And this significant period at event in American journalism history where the press played a crucial role in uncovering truth and holding power to account. So to hear that, no, I can reference our Liberian heroes of journalism. I am I just wow, I'm amazed. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I am so glad that you came on to share the rich history uh, of journalism in Liberia with us. Thank you again. So yeah, since Massa, if you don't mind, I wanted to move to, to, to a question about uh, I wanted to move to a question about when you came overseas, because then the war happened, and then as a Bantu fled, and then eventually Mr. William came over, and then you says Mata, you came over. Is that how you decided? Um, is that so? I'm going to how you decided to organize uh, uh, to start ALJA, and ALJA is the association, for people who don't know, the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas. I know when you come to this country, because you sound different, most times you don't get to pursue what you were, pursuing in your home country. So you will kind of have to reinvent yourself. So then you came over. I want to assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you had to go into other areas. How come then you decided, even though we work in other area, we assimilating, we into a different culture or trying to find our feet, you decided to start the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas?
So I think Gabriel would be the best person to start providing the answer for that, because yeah,
Okay, Mr. Williams.
he is going. Ase Bantu and Gabriel William are the fathers of ALJA.
Okay.
So
Then you came later.
they conceived the idea. They started talking about it. They started putting in place a structure before they contacted someone like me. So I was like one of those secondary people who came. So I would like to give Gabriel that reference. So that he, I will come in later, but I think hear from the horse's mouth completely directly. So Gabe, if you don't mind.
All right,
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, Mr. Williams, when I said left you, he came over. Is that how he started? Or when did you come?
Well, like I said, when Isaac fled, the responsibility of the PUL leadership was left with Emmanuel and I. And in the wake of our trip to Banga to reconcile with the press union there and with Mr. Taylor, there were allegations against us by a section of the media in Monrovia that Taylor bought us over, that we had sold out to Taylor. So when Autopus started, there was serious threat on our lives. I'm telling you. Look, I had gun placed on my head in Monrovia, broad day, and I almost got killed in the twinkle of an eye. And Massa is here, during the TRC hearings, they have this section on the press, and they brought Isaac Bantu. The first time that man ever went back to Liberia, and he never went back again. Kwame Clement, and I was also one of those who testified. The late Stanton Peabody. In fact, the founding of the press union was because of Mr. Peabody. Mr. Peabody in 1964 was arrested by the government, and he was incarcerated. And because of the manner in which he was treated, the journalists decided to organize themselves to seek their collective interest. So that's how the press union started. Mr. Peabody, Joe Mulva, they were also involved in the reorganization. Now, coming back,
So that
to
was
this,
in the 60s. the president
Yes,
was
yeah,
elected.
yeah, for the organization, the reorganization, Joe Mulva, of course, Mr. Peabody, are just trying to, and so when the war broke and Autobots came, there was serious threat on us. In fact, there were, rumors that they actually killed Konohine. He didn't die of natural means. And I'm telling you, I escaped Monrovia by the, how they call it, by the thread of my hair. Thanks to my trusted aide, little cousin that I had with me, and because of his connection, they made arrangement with the manager of the last flight, VSR flight that was leaving Monrovia before NPFL shelled the airport when the news were around that they were going to kill us. So I fled from that place. I got on that flight. I didn't know where I was going. Wherever the plane was going to land, it was going to land. I arrived in Guinea midnight.
As
I
long
never
as
been to
you
those
follow
people country.
Liberia.
Yes. So you see those kind of things just to escape. So eventually I moved over. Emmanuel too, he fled because it was just intolerable. Look, I had diplomats call me and say, "My man, you are a young man. You can always come back." And this diplomat told me, say, he said something. He said, "There is not an expression where they say there lies a dead hero." He said, you are young, man, you can always come back. The people say we are getting intelligence that if you stay here too long, they're going to take you down. And I'm telling you, and I can tell you this, that the interim government, Dr. Sawyer, they knew about it. Yes. Somebody that will work in Dr. Sawyer's government was a close aide to Dr. Sawyer who tell me later about certain things because those people were dealing, and I've just given you some background to some of the challenges. The Eskimo people were dealing with Charles Taylor in getting latex from Firestone in exchange for arms while they were there keeping peace. The intelligence information leaked to my newspaper, The Inquirer. I helped to investigate that story. We carried that story, the people arrested me. In 4 hours, they detained Philip Wilson and myself. Thanks to Martha, you remember Scott Stearns of
Yes.
VOA and BBC?
Yes,
Scott Stearns fired that story on BBC and VOA, and the State Department got involved. This is how they changed the entire ECOMO command. Those people marked me for death. And I'm telling you, they almost took me down. This is how I eventually left the country. So when we moved here, we just concluded that America is our last stand. I came here and started working for one of the notable black newspaper here called the Sacramento Observer newspapers.
Okay.
Guess what? The linkage of that paper. You remember John Russwin of Liberian history? Massa? John Russwin. Yes.
He was
One of
the
the
first
founding-
journalist. He started the printing press in Liberia.
Thank you.
Dr.
Just-
Burroughs read about him.
Yes, this newspaper that I work for has a link to John Russwin, and they have his portrait there. So being a Liberian, and then they have that notation to Liberia and everything. So when I worked there, it was an added distinction. So we said this is our last stand, and so we put into place our contacts. We had the State Department, and we almost set up an independent newspaper, an independent radio station in Sierra Leone. But when Taylor got information, he contacted the Sierra Leone government and said he would consider that an act of war if they allowed Liberian journalists to come, to use their territory, to propagate oh yes. And so the need to organize to seek our collective interests was conceived by Isaac Bantu. And of course, he's a brother and we're very close. So we decided to work together. We mobilized our personal resources.
In Sierra Leone or over here?
No, here in America. Now I'm coming to how ALJA came about.
Okay.
We needed to organize to be able to have a stronger voice, to be able to pursue, support, grants, and other things. You couldn't do it with our organization. And so this is how Bantu and I, muster our collective resources. And we contacted our friends, at the National Endowment for Democracy, NED. In the 1980s, before we came on board, the press union, since the reorganization process dating from Mr. Best coming to Wartime and to Dr. Allen, the National Endowment for Democracy, NDI, the National Endowment, for National Democratic Institute, rather, for International Affairs, NDI. They partner with the press union in conducting series of international forums. Remember, Massa? Those
Yeah,
years where they
Dave.
brought in
Dave. And our
international
Dave, like
speakers.
Dave Patterson. Was Dave
Yes,
Patterson, right?
yes. International organizations, speakers from around the world. You may remember Congressman Marvin Donnelly from California,
Yeah.
a famous black congressman those days. He was a keynote at one of those events. It was intended that the press union would lead the way to unite the Liberian opposition in anticipation of the 1985 elections. So the press union had provided that leadership all along. And during the crisis, we played a major role in the formation of the interim government of national unity of Dr. Sawyer in Banjul. That brought together, various interest groups, political parties, and the warring factions, Prince Johnson and stuff, and we were part. La minority was seconded, and we had a mandate to participate. When Taylor had his All Liberian Conference in Banga, we went there as a delegation because we are always told, Mr. Taylor, that when you invite us, we will come. But we are opposed to any seizure of the country by force of arms. So when he invited us, thanks to the initiative of Gaswa Yamento, Joe Molba, Aaron Colley, these brothers, as much as we were on opposite side, at the end of the day, the collective interest of the press was paramount. This guy, Abalo and I went to Banga. We sealed a deal after 1 week of cantankerous issues. Very bitter fight. Eventually, the fellows agreed for us to reconcile. We came to Monrovia, and they said that, we sold out. We sold out to charge the pay us. And we resigned. So, look, you guys take the organization and run it. Thanks to our resignation, it took Mr. Peabody coming to, prevail on me to talk to Emmanuel for us to reconsider. And then we set up an independent panel led by Tom Kamara. And Martha, you remember Tom Kamara was virulent.
Yeah, Uncle Tom, you know how we were very close.
Yes.
He was one of my
Tom Kamara, if you knew Tom, yes. If you knew Tom Kamara and his anti-Taylor stuff, I'm telling you, Tom Kamara led that committee. When they went and looked at all the documents, they realized that it was just all politics. They were just trying to destroy. They were just trying to stigmatize us. In that case, when Emmanuel left, I came. Yes. So, this is how we got here, and we decided to organize. When we organized, we called the National Endowment for Democracy, NED. They provided us their conference facilities. All the journalists were gathered. We planned everything, and people came and paid a little conference fee. It was not all journalists, though. We had now Dr. Dubayan, who is in Monrovia now. I understand he just got appointed recently to some agency. Brilliant young man. Dubayan, we've known him from the time he was Assistant Secretary General of LINSU at the university. We've been friends. The late Reverend Edwin Lloyd, peace be to his soul, he was also there. So we had other people who came, who are not journalists, but they believe in the cause, and we organized the ALJA. And after that, during that conference, Mr. Best got elected president, Isaac Bantu, vice president, and I was secretary general. And, so let me just pause there. And then there are issues that eventually led to the breakup of the organization. To the organization becoming ineffective for some time. But let me just pause here. Maybe you have questions to refresh, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and it sounds like that was the same thing that happened with the press union, because you mentioned a period of dormancy in the press union until you're regrouped after the in the early 80s, I think between 80 and 83, you said, and you were able to regroup. So I think that's a normal maybe that's a normal thing among people who are passionate about issues, and sometimes would differ in principles, but on which way to go. But then at the end of the day, the vision for the the reason why this thing was established in the first place remains. There was a vision sounds for the press union to come together to organize for journalists to organize a union after the mistreatment of Mr. Peabody, and then since that up to this point there have been disagreement, and then there will be some quiet, and then people will say, you know what, let's regroup because we have a mission, we a common goal. And sounds like that's the same thing that was transported when you came overseas. But so after that happened, you had your first convention conference with other civil society members. um how has the vision evolved from its inception to now?
Well, you provide a good summary, and and I just provide as a context. The press union of Liberia in the past couple of years now, it's been ineffective. No leader, and they're just working towards, elections. I think in the next couple of weeks for new leadership after a few years of confusion. So as long as we have people, these things are going to happen.
Yeah,
But how are you, willing, to put aside your differences? For me, we learn some
and pick
very
up the
important
caution.
lessons.
Mhm.
Yes, and that's what happened. And I think from hindsight,
And that's what happened with Aja too.
yes. So
Yeah,
that's what I was coming to with the Aja thing.
those
Uh,
difference
you know,
happened, and then later this generation we came. So we exist because you came here, you had a vision, you put into place, lay the foundation. When we came, we had something to inherit, that, and just um regroup, put life into it, and now we are building on that. So yeah, I just wanted to say that those things, it sounds like that's a normal things among people that happen among journalists, group, and happen in this country and everywhere. People are passionate about issues like that. The members of the press are passionate about.
yeah, the unfortunate thing about something like that is if we continue to allow our personal disagreements to stall relevant progress, then it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot more, for example, the press union could have been by now, given
And
the
I think
history
even
that has
Ajad,
history.
I think there's a lot
Yes, and
more
I will
of
come
your
to the
vision.
Alja thing,
Mhm.
but, okay, yes, Alja. Let's, in a sense, we're dealing with Alja.
Oh, no,
You
no,
know,
no. You can talk
what-
about the press union. I'll just add in that.
okay, let me go to the press union. For example, when we started off, they didn't have grants. But these international organizations, when they started dealing with the press, the NDR, the National Endowment for Democracy, by the time we came into leadership, from the best Allen, Warite, to the Bantutan, by the time we came to leadership, you know, we have established significant international connections for international support. I signed the first grant agreement for the Press Union of Liberia here in Washington, D.C., with the National Endowment for Democracy. And we were the first, you know, organization in Africa to benefit from that grant agreement. And the first two conventions of ALJA were held, at the endowment.
Based on
All we
that
would do
same relationship that was
on the same
established.
relationship,
Yeah.
and based on that same relationship, during
Because
my
we're all the
tenure
same
in
people, the same
yeah,
vision.
yes, during my tenure in Washington D.C., whenever Isaac Bantu came to visit me, we would go, visit some of our contacts, some of you go have dinner or lunch or whatever. And these people would complain about the press union going astray, the press union of Liberia, because they were doing things that were in violation of the grant conditions. There are conditions that are set aside for you to benefit from these things. When we left the grant, and then they had vehicles, they had offices and everything, but there are conditions, there are transparency requirements. And there are, professional requirements you have to meet. And they were in serious violation. We talked to these people. After a while, they just decided to go ahead and pull the plugs on them. With the ALJA thing,
Yeah, there are requirement for non-profit.
yes. Now, coming back to ALJA, when all the bickering started, the people knew what was happening. They
But then
started
since
following
Massa
them.
you were on board,
Pardon me?
but then
Yes.
since Massa had gotten involved,
I,
Yeah,
I was like one of the first person once
yeah.
Gabe
Mhm.
and Isaac got
Yes.
me. So they
Mhm.
recruit, they called, they reached out to me and said, we want
She's
you to
always,
I was from the beginning,
yeah.
way back I was there. I was the chairperson for ALJA on the East Coast. Moses
Thank you.
Sandy was the Secretary General. I was the chairperson. I
Thank you.
also, Sam Slever and I produced the newsletter for ALJA.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
you see,
I was
Massa is always, we don't agree on everything, but there's a core fundamental, things that undergird your relationship, and you hold on to that, and so that's how it's been. Look, we've lost a lot of opportunity as a result of these things that happen.
I
I can
agree.
tell you,
I agree.
both in Liberia and here,
And yeah,
you know,
I
grand
agree.
opportunities. And I think I shared with you, my first book, my first book, when I published it, the second convention, ALJA convention, we had the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Africa, Ambassador Robert Perry from the State Department, who was the keynote speaker. So we were speaking, we were engaged at very high level here in this country. We helped to impact, U.S. policy on our country towards Liberia. I sent you a copy of a press, statement from the Perspective newspaper those days, where Secretary of State Power wrote me a letter acknowledging receipt of my book that I autographed, and it was Ambassador Perry when he came to speak at the ALJA event. I signed a copy of that book, and that letter, I had a specially written letter for Secretary of State Power appealing for support for the Liberian media and laying out things. And he responded, and they lay out some things, how the media is very important, all of these things. So you cannot be bakery and you expect more support. So eventually, the organization, just went moribund for a few years. And I moved on into government. I moved back to Liberia, working in the government. And then President, was pleased to have me, come to Washington, D.C. to serve as a diplomat. During my tenure in Washington, Moses contacted me, about the effort to revitalize, and I embraced him. Moses and his delegation came to D.C. a few times, and I made the ambassador available.
Doing the effort for us to regroup.
Yes, and I gave them my fullest support. In fact, I represented the ambassador on behalf of the government to induct the new officers, the first elected officer for following the reorganization. I went to Philadelphia for that convention. So yes, at the end of the day, it's about how we can work together in our collective. Because these organizations, you talk about institutions, you go to these places, it's only references because they lay them out. They work towards the proper documentation. But if we're not doing it for ourselves, nobody's going to do it for us. And so these kinds of engagement that we're having here can help to revive. I am the author of 2 books. If you read those books, the other one for which I even got fired, But if you read those books, a lot of information, Africa, for example, the last book that I wrote, Corruption is Destroying Africa, the case of Liberia, where you have 3 chapters on Liberia's role in Africa, long before all these African countries now that we run into, Nigeria, and we call them big brothers, when they look up to us. When we provide a scholarship to educate their revolutionary leaders who took over the country. Where are we, my people?
Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Oh, hi, sis Massa. Thank you, Mr. William.
Yes.
Seriously. That's the same lamenting some of us have been doing, and then I think Robtel came to kind of wake us up, say, hey, do you know who we are? Do you know where we came from? Yes, where we came from. This is where we descending. These are the group of people we descending from. People were defiant, people were fighters, people who stood up, who stood for this. So let us be reminded of where we are from, whose we are, to stay in our dignity moving forward. Let it define our actions, so that we can put our acts together. And people were missing the point. I'm sorry, says Massa. So yeah, tell us from your own perspective some of the things that Mr. William left out. Is I find this exchange or this telling of our history, the press history, really, really enlightening. From the late
Absolutely,
80s to now.
absolutely. I think one of the blessings of the TRC and what made, I think, the work reach, again, I don't want to toot my own horn, was that they had journalists on the commission. Yeah, yeah, they had journalists on the commission. And I'm saying it, I'm actually quoting internationals. A lot of internationals, when they meet me and we discuss the TRC, they say having journalists on the commission really made a difference, because you have me there and then you also have a John Stewart. It's because we already knew a lot of the issues, and we could put things in proper perspective, up to guard the process. But as Gabe was telling, his own experiences during those perilous times in history, it just brought to mind certain things, and I will not linger here because I know we move on. But I just wanted to buttress Gabe's point. For example, Gabe, remember when the government arrested you following 1986, was it 85 Kuampa evasion? Remember when they
Yeah.
arrested you? Yeah, they arrested you and they had you on television at the Minister of Defense press conference. Gabriel William there, a young man standing up. And I will never forget, because my whole family, we were watching it, because my father, they all knew you very well, and you and myself were very close. So when we heard that you had been arrested, I told my pa, I said, Gabriel has been arrested. He said, which one? I said, Gabriel Williams, because he knew Gabriel could have catch you extremely, even more than you. So he said, which one? I said, Gabriel Williams. So we ran to the 8 o'clock news, and yeah, us there looking at Gabriel Williams, a young man, journalist, standing up at the Minister of Defense press conference with the Minister of Defense, Grady Addison. And Grady Addison was no joke those days. He was tough, and Gabriel standing there. He's the only civilian. I think they had a press, but he's standing there, and Grady Addison is berating him. And I will never forget when he asked Gabe something, a question, and he was trying to answer the question, and Grady Addison just called him and said, "Look at you, Baple that you."
Yeah.
He said that Baple that you. I don't remember the entire line, but I remember he called you Baple. Gabe, am I telling the truth?
Yes, just to come back to you, let me just, what you are so right, Massa. What happened is the NSA, the National Security Agency, had kidnapped a married reverend who was critical of the government. And I wrote that article for the Daily Observer. They invited me to a meeting of the Joint Security at the Defense Ministry, chaired by General Allison, the Defense Minister. I got there, they wanted me to disclose the names of the sources that I quoted. I said no. That man had me stripped naked. Let my mom bone me. They beat me.
I had you on TV.
Yes.
No, he was in clothes.
They have given me back my clothes. But I tell you that man, it was intended to intimidate me first. Because when we got to this point, yes, it was Jenkins Scott, the Justice Minister, who appealed to this man. To Scott said, we're not going to Allison said, we're not going to get anything out of this boy. That man was so insensitive. How dare I stand in front of him and say, for professional reason, I cannot disclose the sources. That man said, little boy like you, because they say you just came from America, who cares? The man said, when I was a journalist, you were not even born. And that man, he got his master's degree in mass communication from one of the universities here in Washington, D.C. he served as Minister of Defense, Minister of
The Minister of
Information.
Information. Yeah.
Yes.
So he
So
beat
he was a well-known journalist in his own
When
right.
he called
So
you Baple, I remember he
yeah,
said Baple
yeah.
like you.
Yes, sir. He said you Bapla. What he meant was that I was not the one they were looking for, but little boy like me, insignificant human being. He said Bapla like this. You little Bapla, you standing here and you say you, oh yes, that man demean me, but I stood my ground. I said, that man will kill me. They better just pull a gun. They beat me. They stripped me naked. He look at my little journey and he laugh about it and everything, but I stood my ground. Oh yeah, that's what I
Mr.
tell you.
Williams,
Gabe, the effect, I brought it up because as we speak about it now, I am seeing that visual picture in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we all being young journalists, you being one of my closest colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching this on television with my family.
You
And my
see, you have to see.
Sorry, you
Yeah,
had to go through
and my
that.
stepmom is saying, yo, let's pray for him, let's pray for him. I'm watching
You
it.
had to have
No
that
sound
kind of
coming from me,
experience.
but the tears just coming down. I was so scared for you because here you were, a young man, a civilian, in the midst of all these top military people, and you look terrible. You
Mm-hmm.
look terrible in terms of your physical functioning.
Obvious.
We could tell that you have been rough up and stuff, and we're watching this on television. That thing traumatized me, Gabe. It traumatized me. I'm telling you.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So that was just one of the instances, and then there's another one. When I finally fled the border, 1990, I was in and out, and I went to Ghana. It was one time, not 1990, but I met Dan Brown. Remember our colleague Dan Brown, who used to
Yes,
read the news?
he's here in California.
Yeah. I haven't spoken to Dan for so long. So I ran into Dan because I had gone to the Buron refugee camp to to visit other Liberians. Because I used to live cantonment residential area around the airport in around Osu in Ghana. So I went to the camp that day and I was lucky. I met Dan. I had not seen him since the war started. Remember how all of us journalists were so close, whether you work for newspaper, LBS, or
Oh
just
yes.
were very close. So when I saw Dan, he was so happy to see me. He said, Massa, I'm so happy to see you. I hear about all this fantastic work you're doing. I'm so happy to see you. He hugged me. I will never forget. Dan had on a coat, so the coat was so big for him is because he was never killed. He was never killed. He was jailed. He was never killed. And then he told me the story. And when Prince Johnson came to the TRC hearing, I repeated that story and I asked him the question. He got upset with me. So Dan told me that he and Ase Bantu were arrested on Prince Johnson base, and Prince Johnson made them to drink dirty water and to swim on the ground. So
Yeah.
when Dan told me that, I'm like, wow. Even as he told me then, he was still traumatized. So when I came to the States, I called Isaac to say I was here, just to touch base. And I asked him, I said, big brother, I met Dan in Ghana. And this is what he said. He said, oh, he said, oh, Massa, baby girl, they almost killed us. Prince Johnson almost killed us. So when Prince Johnson came to the TRC, I asked him that question. I said, why did you arrest a journalist? I asked him, I said, did you make Isaac Bantu and Dan Brown drink dirty water? And he just talked around it. He just talked around it. And then also, Tom Kamara, like you said, Gabe, Tom Kamara is one of the journalists, in the category with Rufus Dapo, who were like our mentor. Uncle Tom, I call him Uncle Tom, was just so very close. I will go to his house, I'll go to his office. Tom Kamara has started, remember his series, The Trial of Charles Taylor, a long time before the trial even started. The guy was a journalistic genius. Tom Kamara, Priscilla, started the trial of Charles Taylor in his newspaper, in the New Democrat newspaper, long before the trial of Charles Taylor actually started, the late Tom Kamara. Yeah.
So with this kind of things that you are sharing, sister, even secondarily, I'm getting traumatized. But I know it's not the intention to traumatize the audience. It just the main takeaway I think healthy people should take will have from this, because for me I get traumatized with every little thing. But the main takeaway is that you were able to achieve, to accomplish. You were able to be people of integrity. Look at the example of Mr. William being stripped naked and beaten because he refused to break one of the courts of journalism disclosing his source. And then you too, you have shared in previous broadcasts, even before today, and you continue to share the kind of challenges. And Mr. Willie alluded to it, as a female hanging out with them in a hostile terrain, in a terrain with warlords. You could have been raped. I mean, a lot of things. The kind of traumatic things you went through, but you're still with people of integrity. Because all of what you're sharing, again, underscore the vital role that journalism plays in a democracy. The press ability to investigate, your ability to uncover the truth and inform the public is essential in challenging abuses of power and safeguarding democratic principles. My question is, from a media perspective, what role do you think journalists now should play in uncovering in covering Liberia's newly established war and economic crime court?
Let me say something quickly, Priscilla. You see, in her July 26th day, oration, Raptel mentioned that as well when she spoke about the media. This thing about this receiving, gift called Kato. Yeah, this thing about Kato.
Actually, I'm sorry, sis Massa. She didn't mention it, she mentioned it on a noonday because
It was
her speech, she had to call it off because she had only 47 minutes. But then she sent me an email with these
okay.
points and said, I didn't have
Okay.
the time to raise these points. Can you ask me about them?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. So this issue of Kato, you asked about what role the media can play. Look, the media in this new dispensation now, the media can just decide to be just credible. Credible, period. That word credible, it encompasses a lot of other or cardinal, issues of journalism. Credibility is extremely important. This thing with the Kato culture is a disgrace. It's an integrity issue, and it impedes the progress of the media, because if you are a journalist and people know you to lack credibility, you do your story. I mean, we were all in Liberia, they're working and stuff. We saw it, and we would tease, would tease some of our colleagues who were practicing. We didn't practice that, and and like I will tell you, I said, what's his name? I have this colleague. What's his name? He's a small guy. He always like to tell the story. Sometimes I forget it.
Alfred Cheer.
Alfred Cheer. Okay, Alfred, like I said, journalists were so closely, we would work together. It didn't matter which institution. In fact, the Inquirer newspaper office was actually the hub and the meeting place for all journalists those days, whether you work for broadcast or whatsoever. At the end of the day, they congregated at the Inquirer because the Inquirer was the eighth media institution at the time. So if you went at any tough, serious story, and we had our team, we have several teams. We had the war reporters, we had the economic reporters, we had these fantastic editors, and all of that. We had the sports department. We were just at the and I was just saying,
And you said you were the only female there at that time.
yeah, at the time. Journalists just need to be credible, and credibility, like I said, it cuts across the board. Like, for example, and just a short example, I said what her name I said Alfred Cheer. Alfred Cheer worked with, at the time he worked with the newspaper with Joe Batois and the rest of them. So Alfred Cheer loved my reporting and stuff. Sweet guy, very humble. I love him. He's like a brother to me. So Alfred called me one day. He came to the Inquirer and said, Mas, you always, do this breaking news. That game, I was making like front page story, back page story, so, so he said, I would love to team up with you sometime. Another colleague who asked that too was Richmond Anderson, who was working for Lena at the time. Later on, I brought him on board to help us at the TRC as media director. So Richmond reached out to me also. He wanted to team up with me. And so Alfred was teaming up with me. So this day we went, Ase Musa, I don't know if you ever heard this guy named Ase Musa. They used to call him Oge. He was an MPFA general.
Yeah.
Oge, that was his war name. So Ase Musa office called the press conference. So we go there, all journalists are there, not all, but some journalists were there. And we get there, they had a press conference and everything. And after the press conference, I said Musa is the guy was in his office. He's behind him, and he was on the Council of State. They had a 5-man Council of State where all the, warring factions were represented. That time they had Dexter Tyre, they're representing, So after the press conference, I said Musa pulls his drawer and start checking money and stuff, and he's giving money to the media. So once he started doing that, I sat down and he had a press officer. I would not call the person name because all of us knew him very well. So he had lists, letting people kneel down, say, "Oh, this," and I told him, no, I'm not going to be part of this. I told them, I said, I don't take cattle, I don't take gift. I'm a professional journalist. I'm not going to be part of it. Again, they were all male. I was the only female. And then Asa Musa called that, and he said he thought that I refused the money because it was small. He said, "Oh, the girl not there. I will give her her own money. I will give her her own money. The women that we can respect them. Don't worry, I will give her her own money. It will be more because she's a hardworking to do." And I took offense and I told him, I said, "No, sir, I will not take your money. I do not take money on my job." Then he said, "It's just for transportation, big girl, just for transportation." I said, "Sir, my office gave me transportation. Every day I have my transportation allowance. I do not need money from you." Then he became angry. He said, "You will take the money." I said, "No, sir, I will not take the money." He said, "Oh, so the girl is like," he said, "The girl is aggressive. If you don't take the money, I would lock you up." I said, "Sir, I'm ready to go to jail now, but you cannot force me to take your money. You cannot force me to take bribe." And guess what? All the other journalists who were there, the things started getting sour now because it's this disruption now. So they started begging me, the boys, and they started saying, "Master, just take it, and not anything." Somebody will come and whisper, "Master, just take it." I said, "I'm not taking money on my job. I don't do it. I'm not going to do it." Then he said, "So you're not going to take the money, so you come, you're disrespecting me." I said, "Sir, I'm not disrespecting you, but I'm just telling you, I'm not going to take I'm not going to take money because you're not going to influence my story." Then he said, "Well, okay, the girl's aggressive, I'm going to jail her." And then when he was talking, I walked out of his office. I just took my bag and started walking out of his office. After chair ran behind me. He said, "Master, I beg you, come back in." He said, "You made the man will kill all of us." I said, "But then after chair, then he will kill all of us." I said, "Because that rebel man cannot force me to take money from him." And then when you look later on, he press attaché, he press secretary came and called me and said, "Mas, come back in." He recognized you because he and I had an encounter in Kakata before. So when he press officer talked to me very politely, who is a colleague, and then when I went back in, all of a sudden he said, "I remember you." He said, "And are you? I took from Banga and I brought you to Kakata."
But you didn't take the money.
No, I didn't take the money. What take the money for? To do what?
No. I just wanted it.
Then he said, "Your hair high." He said, "The woman," then he cheated. He tried to be pleasant. He said, "Your hair high." He said, "She got my wife name Massa too." And that was it. I didn't take his money. And at the end of the day, when we left his office, while walking in the corridor in the mansion, coming down, oh man, my male colleagues, they play with me. You think we made the people kill people in their place here? Who? You think who, Massa? Oh, they didn't. Oh, look, boys, they blasted me. The only person who was defending me was Africhia. Africhia said she got it right not to take money. You're like cattle business too much. He said, then they say you could have taken the money and come outside and give it to us. How do you look at it? I said, "Musa and Chad." I said, "Musa." Then you say all of us will go to jail. Then you said, "Okay, all of us that you won't will die." But I'm just saying these were some of the issues. Look, credibility matters. Priscilla, Gabe, you already know I'm singing to the choir. Credibility matters. So as these processes are taking place or are beginning to be in process for the War Crime and Economic Crimes Court, we will be watching the media. And we will also be playing an active role. We'll be writing, but we'll be watching the media, especially the ones on the ground who have access to this process. You better have your integrity intact because we will be watching you because this process of transitional justice is all about integrity. It's all about balance, fairness, and decency. So if you think that the place you will go to go get your cattle and stuff, you will not like some of us. You will not like some of us, Priscilla. For real.
All right. So, what are your thoughts on Dr. Rochelle Pele's recent comments about just what are your thoughts? You and Mr. William, you alluded to it, but I don't know whether you said anything about about what she. You share any thoughts about what she said? Um, if you did, then I
Well,
missed it, then Mr. Willen can come in. But I was
No,
asking Sis Massa.
actually, Priscilla, the way I operate is that, for example, if someone like she gave her speech, right, and then the speech, she took her time. It was a well researched speech, and she gave her speech, and it was a public. I think for 3 weeks, 3 weeks, the speech, it was the only thing everybody could talk about. So for me now, I didn't see the need, especially to focus on that controversy that they created around the speech.
No, I'm
For me,
talking about the media, her
I know.
what she said
So
about the media.
listen, I mean, I absolutely agree with her points, but the reason I didn't come out to write anything, it was like it was so well dealt with. I mean, everybody
Oh,
was commenting, everybody was writing, so it's like there was no need because people were actually reflecting my own sentiments about, her analysis of the media. She was spot on. But the media, the media has to do better. Again, we know the issue of poverty. We know the issue. People got their lives. They have family to feed and all of that. But still, we have to. The media has to try and find a balance. Find a balance in a way that you do not compromise the integrity of the profession because that's your profession. I mean, it's like you're stealing from yourself. If you by virtue of your behavior,
trapping yourself in the
yeah,
leg.
if you trash the reputation of the profession, then you destroy yourself because that's your profession. That's your daily bread. So the media must guide journalism, very, very zealously, for real. It's an integrity thing, period. I never, as a journalist, I never took money from anybody. And
Hmm.
then I would let Gabe speak. I remember during the interim period, all those different interim period, there was a speaker. I will not call her name. We have gone to the Capitol building because he called a press conference, and we went there. And after, they start giving people cattle, and I just walk outside. Every time they got ready for the cattle team, I take my bag, I walk outside in the hallway, waiting for Alfred to let my policeman so we can go back. And you will not believe it, Priscilla. This speaker actually thought that I had walked out because I thought the money was too small, whatever it is. I went back to the Inquirer while doing my story that afternoon. The speaker cars come with his driver and then his assistant, and the assistant is asking for me. So I think it was Stanley or one of them or Air Wilson. So they bring the assistant in the office. I was there that day. Sam Sullivan was not, he was out in the field. And the assistant came and gave me this envelope and said, Speaker, so and so, Sam will bring it to you. You left early, but he gave you more than the guys. I was so upset. I said to him, I said, you just insulted me. I told him, I said, take it back to the speaker. Tell him I do not take money from people for doing my job. I told him, I said, and tell the speaker, if I see him in person, I will let him know that I feel insulted. I said, go and tell him that I said he just insulted me. He walked into my office to offer me bribe. And guess what? I saw the speaker that very week. And I walked up to his car, it was parked. I walked up to his car and I spoke to him and I said, sir, this is what happened. You disrespected me. He said, Massa, I'm so sorry. He said, Miss Washington, I'm so sorry. It's never going to happen again.
So this
So
all goes to say it's possible. People can. There are other people that have done this. That's what I told someone one time. One of the leaders in what we have now, like, well, we got to be careful how to tell people because the media is not paid well in Liberia. I said, dude. I of course I know we are underpaid. The police is not paid well. Then we will just say let them be harassing every taxi driver. Yeah, everybody will give the reason for not doing what it need to be doing.
the
But when
media will have to stand its ground because sometimes people will voluntarily or bring you bribe or trying to compromise a profession. You have to say no. You have to say no and stand your ground and stick
But
to that no.
what do you think about the other people, the other side of the argument? Say, well, you can also take it and then just do your work.
Well, I don't know, Priscilla. I'm against taking it. I'm against taking the period.
Okay, that's you.
There's
Okay, Mr.
but
Willis.
when you discuss media ethics, though, there's a difference between a gift and the quality or the how you call it, the price of the gift. Remember, gift. There's a difference between that. But this cattle thing, because look, this cattle thing, God, the people don't respect journalists. I mean, somebody would do the story and the person broke. I mean, they're walking from where a sinker come into finance ministry, they sweat all under the shirt, under the arm, they doing the sweat at it, and they will go to some minister office and say, oh, chief, yeah, the paper, oh, you saw the story. Of course, he saw the story because the ministry is subscribing. He saw the story this morning. Get your story set from over there. Go and learn some.
Yeah, no, that
So
one
these
is
are some of the
bad.
things that people do. And then they don't respect the media. And then now people think that they can basket
Everybody can
the
do
media.
it. Yeah.
Journalists must say no, because if you say no to the corruption, it will help to dissuade people from engaging in corruption. You got to say no.
Okay. Mr. William, what do you think about what Sis Massa saying? She won't
Well,
cancel cattle culture. Should we cancel?
well, Priscilla,
Yeah.
now you see what it is when you have some of the massa in your newsroom. What it's going to be like when you have when your team. They used to call what
Too
tomboy. How they
hard-headed.
used to
They
call
used to, they used to,
tomboy,
they
tomboy,
used to, they used to call me tomboy. Then,
tomboy. I tell you,
they never
massa.
call me lady. They used to call me boy.
I tell you,
He,
massa
she.
will
Somebody
go.
say he, she. She said he, she.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, she competed equally, and in the newsroom. Why is here is an argument throughout. So I just said it now, watching everything is but yes, look, these arguments are now without their merits. Definitely, and I go back again to my own training. My first training that I got was they got this internationally renowned organization, training institution in London called Thompson Foundation. Master, you remember Thompson
Yeah.
Foundation? Great global training. My first media training that I got was under a professor from Thompson Foundation that Mr. Beth had brought to do in-service training at the Daily Observer. And from the preliminary, you write, and from his assessment, the man told me something. The man told me that, young man, he said, you got potential for greatness in this, in as a professional journalist. He said, but stay away from money. He said, money is a major destroyer. When you get yourself involved with money business, you can't be a journalist and you be able for money, basically. You have to draw that line. And it has been my guiding principle all along. And yeah, Master, here, imagine as managing editor of the Inquirer, people will bring bundles of money, bags of money, but never a penny. But here it is, though. The media entities has a need for them to be able to pay their staff. One of the major reasons why. And I say that as somebody who's been leader, who been manager, who have had a headache or payroll, even as we speak. The Inquirer newspaper, the managing editor, she's doing very well. But as chair of the board and the rest of my colleagues, monthly salaries, medical benefits, the operation of the entity is our primary headache. That thing will keep me up. And yeah, Master, here, when we started at Inquirer, people overlook us. They say we were a bunch of young people. We were not going to make it, we were going to die. But what did I do? With people like her, in various places who were moving the charge according to the way they wanted, I focused on building an institution. And this is why after nearly 40 years, and even with the death of Philip, we said the Inquirer remains an institution. We put in people with different expertise in the business office, in managerial offices. We brought in lawyers. We brought in, and we brought in people on a regular basis. One of the first things we did was to start paying salary and pay regularly. You heard Massa talk about, her going to one program and she tell the people, say, my office give me weekly transportation. Hey, you said that, Massa?
Yeah.
We
Every
did
Monday,
that.
we come to work
Yes.
every Monday and sign
At
for
the
our
Daily,
weekly
at the
transportation.
Daily Observer, at the Inquirer, we copied that. Once the reporter got on base on Monday, the first thing, the allowance must be available for that week. Everybody. And what did that? And the salary when the month ends, they must get their pay. If we don't have it, something must go. You cannot leave them. And what happened? And yeah, Master, yeah, I was the last person to take my pay because sometimes you generate, that you will generate resources
You
to
a
meet the
Seaton,
payroll.
you a Seaton,
Yes,
you always took your pay last. Seaton is the
yes,
business manager.
yes. So we'll make sure everybody got paid. And I will tell them, say, you come to me and I will be the end of the line. Sometimes Mr. Roger Seaton will come and say, well, Chief, I think, let me just go last. You just take yours. But everybody must sign that allowance, the same thing. In that way, you know, our reporters were being held to a standard not to go and pander, and go and because if these people don't do it, they leave from whom? Your children got their school fee to pay. You get out of the 200 LD to come from whom? To go to the office to go hustle. The children got, you got food in the house. All those things, these are meditating factors. If the news organs, and after the, how you call it, the COVID, one of the things we did was to even provide medical at the Inquirer. We are one of the few entities, media outlets that do that in Liberia. We have full medical coverage. When we started first, it was being abused, Every Jack in jail will come. Oh, my wife said, my this and that say you get the money, they will use it. So what they will do now, we instead of cutting off the program, we revisited it where if somebody was sick, come to the office, show the person, they will give you a slip and you go to the clinic. We have agreement with a particular clinic.
All you can, that's what I'm going to say. All you
Yeah.
can
So
work
in
with
that way, yes. So in
Is
that
clinic.
this,
way,
Gabe, is it still Malak Clinic? Because those days we had
yes.
the scene system, it was Malak Clinic.
Yeah, it's still my life. We
Oh
just
wow.
upgraded it, where people are not going to go, I said, then they go take the money. You come, you go to my life. Thank you, mother, you know that. So, so when you do those things, you minimize the kinds of challenges that we talked about. But until these things, the personal issues are addressed, my sister, you can go up, you can come down, it will remain. Provide them their monthly allowance. So when they go on assignment, bossman, the boss ain't ready to go home, go back to the base, or they ain't got money. They will minimize it. Because when that is done, if I got any excuse that you did this, you are gone. So there was that regiment. There was that regiment. So we need to enforce those things. How you have media entities, and Master. So the boss, they operate a newspaper from their briefcase, right? Like
Yeah.
our man Johnny Taylor done this.
Johnny,
But yeah, Johnny Taylor hustle, do a production for the day.
Johnny,
Go
Johnny
print.
Taylor whole
Yeah.
news organization were in that had brown grip.
Yeah.
Our
Thank you.
PDP.
Yes. He print out a paper, one or two boys help him. He put you on or he mess you up. Johnny Taylor, okay, away. He go, you not see Johnny Taylor until time of the next production. Those kind of things, if you do it, the media is not sustainable. That's what I'm talking about. You have to institutionalize it. So, I look at the issues of the cattle thing is unacceptable, but these underlying problems, these human problems, challenges got to be addressed as well.
Yeah, they that's where I don't know what I announced it when we started. I also reached out to Peter Quickly, and but then he said he couldn't make it today, so he wants to come on next week. But it was one of the reasons because the press union will always throw in the issue of how they were working out the collective bargaining issue with publishers and owners of media organizations to so that reporters or journalists will get um, better wages to curtail what we're talking about. Uh, but yeah, I know it's not a concern to minimize, and but I also get the part where Mr. Williams say there are underlying factors. If we deal with it holistically, then maybe we will be able to make some impact. So, Mr. Williams, do you have anything further to say about Rocktail's critique of the yeah? I thought she had a lot of other great points during her oration, like this on Sunday, especially that could make so many news headlines. Um, so besides the integrity issue, what's about news judgment? What do you think? Because 6 months and I was even talking about it, like she mentioned this. It was like, really, there are a lot of nuggets that you could get and just do an editorial for like a month or two or three or four. I just thought so much news was in our oration, and especially last week's Sunday interview with her.
You know, the master is there, and I go back to observer and then to the inquirer. Events like these, like the last July 26th, there are several reporters who are assigned, to cover different aspects. A speech like that, you got two, three of your best, the editors and reporters, and they look at it, they tear it into different people, and you divide it into different sections. And for the next couple of days or so, you're just, hey man, Master, where you just look at it from issue to issue. But these days, that one little aspect from the speech, everybody hang on there, who walk or who walk off, and it just takes away from everything. The young lady, her work is one of the best. It will pass the test of time. I don't care what anybody say. She's a scholar. She did her work. She did it very well.
Yeah,
Now,
the noise was about, oh, they said, and they gave this amount, they gave more. She came recently, she said she broke it down how it worked. And I thought this one week people were going to be like, oh, we had an interview with the US Embassy, or we contacted them to say, oh, this is how like that she explained the 163 million or something. How,
but,
how was it given? Was it a loan? What percentage went to where? To development, and the other one to, like, who's doing that analysis?
yeah, but why her speech is well taken. But
For
I
you, right?
always been making, I
Okay.
100% support. Having said that, where is our share of responsibility as Liberians? Where? Let's take the argument that yes, and I always say that the Americans, they are part of our unresolved past. The cleavages, the issues that we have had over the years up to this point. But I can also argue that since the war, these people has helped us so much. And I work in Washington, D.C., and there is so much that we could have gotten from them. Only if we had done the right things. What's what the little they gave us? Look at the corruption that is going on in our country. Look at the plundering, the hundreds of millions of
Let's talk
dollars.
about all of that.
Yes, so when you look at it, instead of focusing on who they don't do what for us, I would say at this point in time, where is our share responsibility? Because we are messing up our country every day. The fact that this young lady's speech, very brilliant speech like that, who is a call to order for us to do things, what are they doing? They're trying to do, it's being ripped up all kinds of ways. It speaks to the Liberian mindset. Sometimes you wonder what are we know what is good for us. Sometimes you wonder, and I say so as somebody who works in government, who works in the private sector, there are people who will see the right thing going on and they will undermine it because it is not in their own narrow interest. Just a typical Liberian behavior. There are people who come to government just, not out of the desire to serve, but to loot. And they will come with all the degrees, they will come with all the titles. Look, a lot of people parading around. The falsehood that money that undergird their conduct, unfit to serve the public service. But they are there. We have them. So, for me, all the hundreds of millions of dollars, they took the Americans to sanction key officials. We are government. They let him go, just to get him a little respect. And we hear that, we are running around. He's talking about this and that. If we are doesn't look out, he's going to be nailed. Charles Taylor did the same thing. They gave him a passage to leave the country, to allow the country to come back together. Taylor was in Calabar there, and he wanted to run a parallel administration and be causing confusion. People go up and down until Taylor is now king. We are better watch out. I'm saying this with all my heart. If this man allow these little boys He and his irresponsible people, we have never went, he barely went to work as a president. The country is in serious mess, and he needs to be held accountable. If I were him, I would shut up and see how this thing goes, because he doesn't watch out, he will end up in handcuffs. So the thing about it, yes, she did a very good scholarship, scholarly work, but the responsibility is ours. Instead of looking at it from the negative perspective, let's see it as a call to order to move our country forward, to take responsibility. Look at the preamble of the Declaration of Independence of Liberia in 1847. Look at the preamble. The author, the man who drafted the preamble, you know, uh, uh, he's one of our earliest journalists. Okay, so let's look at it from that perspective. And journalists are always play heritage. You know, you know who came from Virginia. One of the forerunners of Liberian journalism. He drafted it. So you look at the history from the preamble. The letting of grievances these people have coming from America, the challenges they face in Liberia. Some of the reasons why they were able to declare early independence, because they felt bound or left on their own. We're going through that. We're going through war. Yeah, we have a new era. So do we sit there and continue to whine and say we're going to ruin our own lives and our country because people are not doing it for us? Just a second. The Ghanaians are moving forward. The Nigerians are moving forward. Other countries are moving forward. But we sit there and we want to wait and wait. They gave us money, we squander it. Look at the amount of money we are in a group to. We are still parading around. We are needs to be arrested and locked up.
Oh.
Okay? Just a child stealer. That's what I was saying. So if he doesn't watch out, this is going to happen. You can ruin the country, and you're complicit in all these murders and extrajudicial killings that are well recorded, about the U.S. State Department country report. We are here joking. We're
Right.
nearly by will.
Okay, so
I'm serious.
all right, Mr. Williams. Your since Massa said she strongly spoke to the Liberian media on how she and others, civil society members and members of the society are going to be watching their coverage, the media role in a recently established war crimes and court, economic crimes court. But generally, what advice do both of you have for young Liberian journalists aspiring to make a difference through their work, with the kind of work you have done, with the kind of things you have shared today? And if we have more time, I know you will share so much more. Your experiences, the both of you, were so rich and impactful. What are the advice will each of you give to young Liberian journalists aspiring to make a difference through their work? You have made a difference. Go for
Uh,
you.
Priscilla, I think one of the most uh, poignant advice I have for young journalists is that if you want to go into journalism, whichever branch of journalism, make sure it is your passion. Make sure it is your passion. Make sure it is your calling.
Journalism is a passion.
Yeah, make sure it's your passion. Because you see, it is that passion that will sustain you.
It's not just a job.
Yeah, it is that. I remember Rufus Dako, who was also one of my trainers, and mentors. He and myself were very close. When I was doing journalism in LU, he came and he gave a lecture. He was teaching there, and he mentioned passion. He said you must have the passion for the profession. Not only journalism, but you asked specifically about journalism. You must be passionate about it, and then also try to seek some self development. You see, like Gabriel, even with you, people like Gabriel, me, other journalists who now, people are saying, oh, that those people, the old time journalists and stuff. We chase the profession because we love it. We wanted to be journalists. So we chase it. When I say we chase it, it's like we wanted to be journalists. So we look out for training program. Like I
That was some okay. Do all the time, oh.
like I told you, when Gaswaya mentor, when I stumbled upon them in a Nigerian
People
shop, and
don't
he told
know.
me there's a training will be coming up that we had a Koba is organizing this training. Go to LBS, so time and find out. I went. Okay. Gabriel could catch you when we used to go every day. Gabriel used to come from all the way on Looking Town. Gabriel could catch you was living Looking Town. From Looking Town all the way to LBS. We'll go say, oh, we ready yet. Oh, we need maybe 8, or young people, and then we were probably maybe 20. You got to have the passion, and we went after the profession because that's what we wanted to do. That's what we wanted to do. And so we tried to develop. And some of it, we were also self-school, some of it. Like I was a news junkie very early on in my home, even when I was in elementary school. My family, the house, my father and my siblings and stuff, they named me or information minister because I knew all the news in the neighborhood, everything was happening. I knew it. And I went out and got the news. You got to have the Boston Central people. You got to have nose, ear, everything for the news. So people should read. Interest yourself, read anything. Read anything. Nothing you read will be for nothing. Read anything because what will happen is that it will help to increase your vocabulary. It will also help to sharpen your mind so that you see things from different perspective. You learn about all the culture, you learn about how people read anything. And you want to be a journalist, but then you never read nothing. How are you going to be a journalist? Because even the photographers, Liberian journalism has produced one of the best photographers. Look at the Gregory Stent. Look at Sanomo. Look at James Fasokwe. Look at James Momo. These are all photojournalists who have published materials, and they also write stories. They also write stories and features and what. So if you want to be a journalist, no matter what branch of journalism you're looking at, you got to have the passion. You got to learn to try to develop yourself, look for training,
Develop yourself.
go for school if you read, and guess what? Look for people in the profession who can be your mentor. Like my mentor was Rihanna Koba, and she was a fantastic mentor. Rihanna Koba Bode was my mentor. She showed me the ropes. She was tough but fair. And a good person. She was really good to us young people who were trying to, me, Hassan Kewu, and all of us who were trying to be journalists. She was there for us. And come what may, we owe it to her. And when we read our books and whatsoever, she would be mentioned. We don't care whatever the political situation is now. When we read our books and stuff, we're going to mention we had a call by and we're going to tell her thank you. Because she got us basically where we are today. This is a woman who didn't only serve as our trainer and mentor, but she was also like a big sister. And she stood. Rihanna can stand up. She said, do this. She can stand up to her bosses and say, yes, I told the person to read this news on air. I told the person to do this. A fearless woman. So look for mentors in the profession. Like Tom Kamara. I walked into Tom Kamara's office when he came to LU one time to lecture and stuff, and I was in his class, and he said, young lady, you will go far in this profession. You need to start writing feature articles. I wasn't writing feature articles by the time. He said, you need to start writing feature articles. He said, some Saturdays, come to the office, and I will go to a Tom Kamara office. Then Rufus Dapo was the same. When I was reporting all over the place, going to Abidjan, going to Ghana, the office, Gabriel then sent me out to see the impact of the monitor, the impact of octopus on Liberians in the sub-region. Remember, Gabriel, when you sent me? You sent me to Aricos, to Danane to see the impact of the octopus operation on. Then from Aricos, I went to Ghana to the refugee camp interview. Then I went to Nigeria, the refugee camp and stuff. Remember, I used to send my story by telex, by fax or whatsoever. So you got to have you know, look for colleagues, people who we were able to be, even though we have good mentors, but we were young people who went, so we team up. Gabriel was one of my team members. Hassan Kebu was one of those who was also close to me, even though Hassan Kebu is a broadcast journalist and we are all print, but we're very close. Hassan Kebu and me were very, very close. And I rather were very close. Alfred Chien, you know, it's another one. You know, so
Okay.
find colleagues who got a foot in the door, who are doing better, and team up with them. You will learn. But you
So
must
let
have the passion and you cannot be lazy. Oh, you cannot just come to journalists. You want to be a journalist, you can't just come a journalist. It's not a journalist. You got to be a journalist. You can't be lazy. Journalism is not for lazy people. You know,
so so
people think
so
it's
let
a
me
glamorous profession. But it's a lot of hard work. You can't be lazy.
so let me wrap all your points on your suggestion recommendation. You say develop yourself, be a reader, and then find a mentor, and then surround yourself with like-minded, hardworking journalists. Um, the first thing is you should have the passion for it. If you have the passion, then you will invest time in everything, resources, to develop yourself. Because I didn't even know you would say this, but just last night I was sharing in one of our professional spaces, actually in the Liberian Association, in ALJA room, about how much I just pay for courses. I mean, just to refresher courses to keep developing myself, and stay current. Because I'm a trainer, I keep preparing myself for a contract or to be called upon to carry out training. So yeah, keep developing yourself, and find a mentor. So was there anything else I missed?
No, you did. You didn't, Priscilla. You didn't. You didn't. And then also, you have to be, motivated. Yeah, Gabriel. There.
The passion will keep you going.
When I came to the Inquirer, they had already started, and I'm working as a only female, surrounded by so guys who were top journalists. I mean, you're talking about Claude Hine, you're talking about John Vamo, Claude Hine, John Vamo. You know those. And I came there and I said, guess what? They got to know that I mean business. They got to know that I'm just as smart. I was not coming to complain, no girly thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting my gender down. But what I'm saying is journalism is about rolling up your sleeves. We had a call taught me that. She said, you got to roll up your sleeves. You know, I'm a bluff girl. I used to let her heat and stuff. She said, Massa, put that high heat down. Put that high heat down. Fun. Because right now, I remember I had gone to her office and she said, right now, if they say the president is coming, and I gave you the microphone, so go and run, behind the corn for and get the president and interview. You able to run in a high heel wearing master? It's good to be a bluff girl, but you got to find a time where you can wear your clothes and do your nails and all of that. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. William, what advice do you have for young journalists that want to make a difference, like you and Sis Massa did?
Yes,
And
thank you so much.
well, yeah.
Yes. Before I get to that point, I heard you say that you will be having, I think, Peter Kukui and some other your fellows.
Oh, he said he wants to come next week Sunday, but I have somebody else. So he and I
They can
will
come.
reach. Yeah, we'll reach in
Yes.
the future.
There is one question you need to ask him. During the early period of the government of President Salif,
Hmm.
the president gave the press union 100 100,000 United States dollars to assist with the construction of the press union headquarters. He was within the leadership of that of the PL at that time. Since then, we have not heard much about this money. Cyrus Badio, who was press secretary of President Seli, and myself, I was at the Ministry of Information. We were really delighted when the president made this offer. Even though professionally, there were questions by our international partners. regarding, the press union receiving grants. And I made a representation on one of these trips, and we told, I said, look, yeah, what I told them, when they raised concern about the government giving press union money and how it might influence the media, I said, President Sally is going to be in power for 6 years because it was the beginning of her first term. Give it, 12 years. After that, she's going to be gone. But the headquarters of the press union is going to remain, right, forever. As long as, you know, time allows. Up to now, the press union doesn't have a headquarters. We don't know what's happening. Of course, the union recently, experienced some challenges, and they're trying to have a new election. So it may be one question you might want to ask. Here is
Okay.
my admonition to the young people coming up.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate though that, and I say this with the recognition that I don't think the young people around have the kinds of you know institutional structures that we had when we came, that allow us, to aspire to the level that we are. Take for example, the Daily Observer was there. Take for example, you have the Ministry of LBS where they had the high school program. Take for example the Ministry of Information. They had the National High School Journalism Association that was under the auspices of the Assistant Minister, of Information for Public Affairs. And so there were these kinds of programs. You don't have any of these anymore. You got media houses that are struggling. They can barely pay, you know, the staff that they have. Many of the media houses, because of the transition, the financial challenges, they're barely struggling to exist. So it's a
You said
very
because of the
difficult
transition?
situation.
Which transition?
Pardon me?
You said because of the transition, the struggling, which
Yeah, when
transition?
I talk about, the we
Transition from
we are
like,
in a transitional period, coming from war, right,
oh,
into normalcy, and it's been a real challenge. All of the institutions broke down. People are not living normal lives anymore. So the those institutions of integrity, individuals of integrity, the continuity, you don't have it. Everything broken down. Look at the platforms, for example. When you talk about transition, the media, you have a lot of television platforms. You know, listen to some of their programs. The panelists that they bring on, you listen to some of the live broadcast of some of these live, online television. They're covering funerals and they can't even pronounce the name of the
oh, those are
deceased.
journalists too?
Well, they're working for these media outlets,
Okay.
broadcast outlets.
Okay.
So I would surmise that they are, because if you for example, if you're
So
working for Spoon, or if you're working for, how you call it, uh Providence, if you're working, these are regular media outlets, right?
I really
So
don't know which. Honestly, I
in,
don't know them.
yeah, so
Okay. I don't
what
follow
I'm
those.
saying is, let's train these people that will put
But
on
do
the
they want
air.
to be trained? But yeah,
Yeah,
I
let's
agree with
train them. I'm not hearing you. The reception is kind of low. Are you
you.
hearing
Okay.
me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes.
I'll just say
So
it out loud.
so
Do they want to
basically,
be trained?
yes. I would just stop there because I think I'm having a low echo from my end. But we need, while we're trying to provide opportunities, we need to see our organizations, the press union, need to be reorganized and focus on providing training opportunities. The ALJA, some of the programs that we undertake, well, we started trying to solicit a support for the broader media landscape, training opportunities.
Mm.
Those things, the opportunities are there. It just needs, for us to be organized and get them done, and have the right people in these offices who know what to do. If not, it's about having election and having people, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, and we go have our annual events. We drink, we have all our talk, and this, if we do it like that, the media is going to be a sitting duck. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, things need to change. We need to shape up. Okay. Yeah, thank you. And then you emphasize training. There's a need for training. Institutions or
Yeah,
organizations like ALJA, like PUL, they need to they need to be proactive, maybe, or take on the mantle of providing leadership when it
yeah.
comes to training in developing the media. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Um, is there any other thing? Otherwise, I think this was a really jam-packed session. So I would like to wrap up and say thanks to the both of you for coming on today. We passed 2 hours, but yeah, thank you for sharing the kind of rich background you share about our profession. I love it. I love journalism. I like what I learned today, and I'm sure some people also have or will. People will watch it later. So I just want to say thanks to the both of you. Madam Massa Washington, you are a great resource. And now I got a new person, Mr. Gabriel Williams. Your thanks for your footprint, for what you laid down, because you're where and you're still are. So I'm not talking in terms of death, but I'm talking in terms of the career we are today. And your thank you for laying the foundation and coming overseas and decided to start something like ALJA that we have inherited. So as I don't know what I should refer to myself as a young journalist. I'm young, of course. So I promise, as a member of AJA now, that will continue to, respect your legacy, keep it alive, carry on the vision and build on it. And hopefully posterity will judge us well tomorrow. So yeah, thank you, yeah, thank you, yeah, thank you. If there is nothing else, audience, that's it. That's it. We wanted to talk about this so that we understand um, the media role, starting from our country to here. You remember on a new day, we say change begins with a conversation. The oration the last time was reminding us of where we came from, things that were accomplished, so that we can put our acts together today, where we are. The same thing, this conversation is about that, so that we can see those that were before us, what they did. The challenges, maybe they were different, but so our challenges today may be different, maybe poverty, high level of poverty, or lack of resources, no money. But still, to some extent, we can still be able to do our work, and keep the basic of journalism alive, to tell the truth, to hold party accountable, power accountable, to do the right thing, to investigate, to inform the public. Let's continue to work on improving ourselves. Let's make every day a new day for progress. I look forward to seeing all of you in the next episode. It's a brand new day. Thank you, y'all. Goodbye for now. Okay, people. Bye.
Bye, Priscilla. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Of
Bye bye.
course.
Gabe, have a good evening, though.
I don't
And
know what
thank you so much for having us, Priscilla. I think it was a very nice conversation, and we look forward to more engagement because uh, there is a need for awareness to be able, to rebuild our country. The
yeah.
media and everything else that regards Liberia that needs rebuilding. The country is in serious, serious mess. We are struggling with leadership. We are struggling with with the issue of accountability and the prevailing state of affairs and all the news with the corruption and the plunder are just examples of the terrible state our country in. And it only takes the journalists to redeem our country. Believe me, we can do it. And transparency is the way forward. Once the media is coherent, we're strong, we're potent, we'll redeem our country and take it through, just as we did during the years of the war, the 1980s. This era we can move the country forward to better days for the betterment of our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
We are Liberian. Liberia is
Bye. Thanks for having me on, Priscilla. Bye bye. Bye.
Liberian people. Liberian.